part of trading, and I always, if you've gotten anything from the series that I've done over the break, it's that observation is key. Would you guys agree? If you haven't seen it, I did a 4-part series called Building a Forex Trading Strategy, walking you through the process of what I go through in developing a strategy. And the main point that I've been trying to overly emphasize in every single episode is that observation is key. And that the fact is, I started with a completely different idea in a completely different place than where I am right now. It always reminds me of that thing, not to get too off track, but it reminds me of the 1% change, right? Philosophy I follow in life is called the Kaizen philosophy, which was used after the last World War when Japan was trying to rebuild their economy. And what they did was they said, instead of focusing on doing everything at once, let's just focus on getting a little bit better, a little bit more efficient each day. And in the long run, we'll become very efficient, right? And so basically small, consistent actions will get your big, absurd goals, right? But it takes small, consistent daily actions. That's something I've implemented in my life. And there's this cool, I don't know if I saw the infographic or I just created it in my head, but there's a cool saying where if you make a 1% change in your life, right, on a daily basis, before you know it, you're going to be in a completely different place. So if you imagine yourself in the ocean and you're paddling and you decide to shift yourself 1% to the left, right, and land is hundreds of miles away, that could be the difference of you leaving England and landing up in Canada versus landing in Florida. Does that make sense? Just by a small change over time, right? If you were to change your direction by 1% and just walk straight, you're going to be in a completely different place. Now imagine if you do that over and over again, you make a 1% change every single day, you're in a completely different place. And I feel the same way about this strategy is again, just observation. It was small changes, and somehow I landed in a completely different place than what I thought. But the purpose of it was to focus on the power of observation and how observation allows you to make how observation lets just Canada could be too cold, so let's go straight to Miami. Yeah, I agree with that, Latch. I agree, or maybe even a little bit more south. But observation is key in making those changes. And what's important about making changes, right? Just in general, making changes requires an open mind, not even in just trading, but in life, right? I mean, think about this. How many of you guys have ever been stuck in your way about something? Something your parents taught you, something you learned as a kid that you just, in your mind, defined as the truth. And now someone's approached you with a different argument, but instead of being open to that argument, you're kind of just sitting there like, no, they're wrong, right? Kind of the biggest thing right now is like, this is a popular one about home ownership or even college. That's one where it's like, when I grew up, right? You go to elementary school, you go to middle school, you go to high school, you go to college. You have to go to college to be successful, right? That was the thing. That was ingrained in your head, right? Which is funny because generations before that, it was completely different because no one went to college. They went straight to work. But we became convinced that going to college had to be done. And there were no ifs, ands, and buts about it. You didn't dare say, no, I'm not going to college. You didn't dare say, hey, I'm going to do something else. You just went to college because that's the thing to do. Now the thought process is kind of changing, right? I think you guys can agree across the world we're putting less value on higher education. You do the same thing for buying a house, right? Everyone talked about, oh, it's a waste of money to rent. You should just buy. Home ownership is what you need to do. Now we're starting to see people say, well, home ownership is probably, maybe it isn't the thing to do. Maybe it's a waste of money, and what you should really do is rent. But the point is, if you are set in your ways, you're never going to grow, and you're never going to find an answer that is the best answer. And I say that because, right, we're talking about a range bar trade here where my rule set has been to, in these situations, right, wait for that RSI to go overbought, look for my entry reason, and then sell. However, right? When I talked about the studies that I did on the RSI over the break, we're talking about, right, strong bearish trends, right? Where should a strong bearish trend remain above or remain below at max? That's 66.67 level, right? It's really 66.6, but we don't want to mess with the devil. So we do 66.7. And more so, the 60 level. So you can see there's a conflict of interest here, right? If I want to get short here right now, right? I need price action to get overbought. So I need price action to go beyond the 80 level, right? I use a more aggressive overbought than the default, right? So in the RSI, I need the RSI to go above that 80 level. Make sense? But also going above that 80 level would go against a strong bear trend should stay below the 66 level. So it's an interesting dilemma because on one hand, I have two choices here. On one hand, I can say, oh, this RSI thing is stupid. My way works the best. That's the only way I should ever trade it. Why? Because that's what I've done. Or I could look at it and say, well, maybe I should start paying attention to the two and do some comparisons and see if this is the best way to trade it. Maybe using the zone is a better way. Maybe it's not. But I need to at least be open to the idea. Do I not? Instead of being stubborn and closing it off without even giving it any thought. No, this is the way I do it. It doesn't work. Well, I don't know if it works. Could work great. Could be horrible. I don't know. I know one thing. I miss a lot of trades waiting for my requirement now. Perhaps this allows me to get into more trades. I miss a lot of aggressive trades where and you guys in the live room, you see me all the time, are like, dude, sell it. They're like, yo, did you get short yet? I said, I gotta wait. And then you come back the next day and it's like, moved 100 pips, guys, couldn't get involved. So it could be a better way. But the point is, if you want to evolve as traders, and you need to evolve, you need to adapt because God knows the markets change. Sheesh. God knows the market change. Look, I started off, back when I kind of reset my trading as trading advanced patterns only, right? The years I've seen, if I were only trading advanced patterns and never added anything else, it'd be some very difficult years. Let's put it that way. So you need to be open to new things, to new ideas, to understanding that your way may not be the best way. Maybe it was the best way at the time because it was the best out of the knowledge that you had. But as you acquire more knowledge, maybe you find better ways to do something. And you can't let that pride stand in the way, right? That's the hardest part. The hardest part is pride. The hardest part is sitting there and being like, maybe I was wrong. Right? You guys ever been in an argument and someone gets the best of you? Isn't it really hard to kind of like accept that you lost? That's not easy. If you're like me, you like to just battle and you just get louder, right? The wronger I am in an argument, I get louder. I start off and I'm like, that doesn't work because of this. It doesn't. No, it doesn't work. You just get louder because when you get louder, your point gets better. I don't know, but it's hard. But you got to be open-minded. You got to put that pride aside and say, what's more important, my pride or my money? And it's the same thing when people go through win percentages, right? Why do we like big win percentages? It's ego and pride, is it not? I win 90% of the time. Right? But what if you had a system that won 70% of the time or 60% of the time, but made more money than the 90% of the time? What's the better system? Yeah, typically the one that produces more profit. Now, to a certain extent, obviously. And doing so, scrapping a 90% system and going to something that wins less but gets you a better result, that's putting your pride aside. And we have to always be like that in trading. But it's very easy. For you guys that are new, you probably haven't experienced this yet because you don't know what you don't know yet. You're still in that unconscious incompetence level. But it's very easy to get stuck in our ways. It's very easy to get stuck in our ways, especially when we haven't tried any other ways. And that's something that you're gonna have to deal with as your journey continues as a trader, and you learn stuff, and some of what you learn is in it conflicts with what you thought you knew, and you got to be able to deal with that.